Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Jana Ranjana Jayo Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jayo Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jayo Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radhe, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Shri Radha Madhava ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari 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 Hari, Oh, Hare Krishna. Just give me a quick second, Prabhu, to close the window. I'm wondering, the heating's on, but where is the draft coming from? It was sunny in the mornings, so we wanted to get some fresh air and sunlight in. But as you know, the weather changes very frequently in this country. So hopefully I can sit here without feeling the cold for the next hour. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees of ISKCON Manchester and the wider congregation, Gauranath Raj Prabhu, Sita Prem Mataji, Radha Vinod Prabhu, Sumedha, Neeru Mataji, Hare Krishna, Mbara Prabhu, Madhvi Mataji, and Sarvagya Prabhu. That's better together. Shankar Prabhu and Usha Mataji, and Damodar Vilas Prabhu all the way from India, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Philip Ramnal Prabhu, and who else is here? Jishuban Mataji, our dear Vedana Prabhu's mother. So thank you, dear devotees. We'll just do the invocation prayers and then start with having a bit of a discussion. on the teachings from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshuranamritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sampatam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Subhadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So let me begin by making some acknowledgements. Much of what we are going to discuss today is all about making sincere acknowledgements for whatever is at our disposal. So Gaura Nataraj Prabhu, you can have 15 people here and all blank screens, but you'll have one face who will be bobbing at you in acknowledgement all the time, constantly. So Gaura Nataraj Prabhu, thank you for constantly being there. And I remember in our early days when we were just getting on the ladder of practicing Krishna consciousness, all the devotees in Manchester really came together and helped us. Radha Mohan Prabhu, he might join at some stage. Radha Vinod Prabhu, I remember for so many months together, at 4 o'clock in the morning, we would just, he would be ready more than us for me to do Mangalarti, and he'll just be sitting there watching me for week after week after week after week, selflessly. So acknowledgements to all the devotees for being there for us in our initial years, which is the reason why so many years on, we're still continuing to do our little bit. So much of what we are going to discuss today is essentially about acknowledgement of what is at our disposal. I recognize that the topic is very, very generic. The heading is Enlightened Eating. And that's a copy from the ISKCON Manchester calendar. I'm sure you will have that. So that was a theme for the month of April. The calendar is designed to bring across one theme every month for practicing devotees to improve upon their existing practice, and for new members to take upon these little steps into building Krishna consciousness in their lives. So the theme for the month of April was Enlightened Eating. We'll just continue on that a little bit, and then I'll quickly introduce the theme for May, and then leave you with affirming that or practicing that. So please feel free to interrupt, participate if you have a comment to share from whatever is working in your devotional lives and what you think is a current challenge. We can together over the next 50 minutes or so come to an agreement on what some of us already believe is the right way to be, and get some doubts cleared if there are any. So Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita that everything that is available in the nature is essentially being made available under his direction. He's saying, Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Krishna is saying the forces of nature are working under Krishna's direction very nicely. And the arrangement is such that seasons change, the flora and fauna changes. You get crops, different crops at different time of the year. And it is essential for us to make that acknowledgement, a sincere acknowledgement that Krishna is the source of all that we have at our disposal through Mother Nature, because nature is working under the jurisdiction of Krishna himself, who is referred to as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in saying such, Krishna is also giving assurance in so many places in the Bhagavad Gita that he's providing sufficient for everyone, and that there is no real need to engage in overaccumulation of material necessities. There is no such need for over-endearing what is essentially really just gratification of senses more and more and more. We were yesterday on a day out in southern Wales, in the Valley of Pennant, a beautiful setting. And not that we don't have nature here close to us, but we just had a closer interaction with the natural setting, and there were lots of animals, different kind of birds and lambs and not so many cows, but it was just very interesting to observe that the way the animals behave and the way we respond. Animals so carelessly, just I don't think carelessly is the right word, just very, very in a relaxed manner, roam about, just take what they need for that day only, rise up with the sunshine, eat whatever is available in nature, and rest a bit, play a bit, and then go to sleep without worrying for what is going to happen the next day, or where is the next set of leaves, different colored leaves are going to come from tomorrow. That's just only human nature. It was so pleasing to see how animals go about. So Krishna is saying that the material nature is working under his direction, and he's also assuring that the purpose of human life is not really to over endeavor in gratification of the senses. We have certain additional faculties compared to the animals. We have intelligence, we have the ability to reason, we have the ability to question, and we have the ability to make inquiries into who we are. What is our source? Where are we coming from? And how to connect back to that source. And if you don't do all this, if you don't ask intelligent questions, if you don't make such inquiries, then we are essentially non-different than animals. If we continue to over-endeavor in simply improving our facility to eat, sleep, defend, and mate, then we are not really differentiating ourselves from what animals do. So the instruction is to ask intelligent questions, make inquiry, and make an attempt to connect back to our source. So the assurance is that Krishna is looking after everything. The nature has its ways of providing all the fruits that we need on a daily basis. And the important point that the acharyas are making is to acknowledge the source of all these resources. Acknowledgement is the first essential duty that is recommended for every living being. And to be honest, it isn't really for the scriptures to tell us this. This is basic etiquette, basic culture that most of us are born and brought up in. If you get a gift from someone, it is basic etiquette to reciprocate, at least say thank you, at least acknowledge. And if you're feeling a bit more, then you share a little bit of what you get. It is simply an extension of the same sentiment, same culture, same values, same tradition. So even if you don't have access to the scriptures, you don't have access to instructions of the acharyas, it is on the basis of our cultural upbringing that we must engage in making basic acknowledgements of the gifts we receive, not just from our friends and families, but also from Mother Nature, for instance. And Krishna is confirming that nature is acting on behalf of Krishna himself. Nature is working under the instruction of Krishna himself. So acknowledgement. And what happens if we do not acknowledge? We are classed as ill-mannered. Yes, Neeru Mataji, is that what you say? This is bad etiquette. It's just lack of etiquettes, no manners, if there is no acknowledgement. So what happens to the person who is giving you a gift without receiving a thank you again and again? At one point, he's going to stop giving you gifts. Or your relationship wouldn't really develop. The basis of having that exchange, will not fructify. It wouldn't much. I don't want to use the word materialize. It wouldn't spiritualize, or there wouldn't be any exchange happening if there was no acknowledgement. On a more material level, say for example, take the case of a regular 9-to-5 office goer in England, for instance, or anywhere in the world for that matter. You go do a job, then you get a salary, and then a portion of that salary is taken away from you in the form of national insurance and taxes. So we recognize the fact that that is a norm. That is the way of, that is a civil way, and that is a law of the land. So the understanding is whatever facilities we have in society, whether it's NHS or traffic or police or civil maintenance, all that needs funding, or all that needs taken care of. And as a way of acknowledgement, we pay a certain portion of our salaries as taxes to the government. Now, take, for example, a person who does not agree with this principle. What would you class that person? He'll not be law-abiding. He'll be classed as an outlaw. Or if I was to use a more serious word, he would be an offender. Offender is more simpler to understand. So the point that I'm trying to make is that anybody who is not making an acknowledgement of the gifts we are receiving, sometimes supposedly without even us making an effort, is essentially an offender or a thief. And this is pure bad etiquette, lack of good manners, essentially. So with that, what we should do is maybe read from the pages of the Bhagavad Gita and try and take some direct instruction on what Krishna is saying in this beautiful conversation that's going on between Arjuna and Krishna. Gauranga Prabhu, can I request to bring Vedabase up? We'll just read the translations from first verse of the 3rd chapter till the 12th, just the translations to come up to that stage, and then read the 13th verse also. So do we have any volunteers to read? You can either just unmute yourself or raise your hand, whatever works for you. Damodar Vilas Prabhu, are you able to read? Wherever you are.
Prabhuji.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Prabhuji.
Could you just read the translations only to verse 1, text 1 to text 6, and then someone else can do 7 to 12, and then we'll get to the 13, which is the subject matter.
Right. Thank you very much. Text 1, Karma Yoga, text 1. Arjuna said, "Oh Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? If you think that intelligence is better than fruity work, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor try renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior.
Thank you, Prabhu. Maybe someone else could read the next 5 verses. Anybody else? Sita Mataji, are you able to read? Just the translation 7 to 12, please. Thank you. It's on the screen.
Yes, Prabhuji. From 8th.
7.
Perform your prescribed duty.
7.
But doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one physical body without work. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way, you will always remain free from bondage. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent 4 generations for men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yagna," sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. The demigods, being pleased by sacrifice, will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will ring for all. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yagna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. It was a very, very clear reading. So this principle of making acknowledgement is extended upon in being called a sacrifice. And in the verses of this 3rd chapter, Krishna is clearly explaining that there is a wonderful arrangement. You make acknowledgement to the nature, and the demigods will be pleased with your sacrifices. And then like that, the wonderful arrangement will carry on. So it's very, very clear, direct instruction by Krishna himself, that acknowledgement of the gifts of nature has to be made. Now, this conversation is happening between Krishna and Arjuna. And Arjuna, we know at the start of the Bhagavad Gita, is very confused and unsure of wanting to fight. And he's obviously having this conversation on our behalf, because all of us are in that position time and again. So he's making all these inquiries. Not that he's not an intelligent person, but he's making these inquiries on our behalf. So Arjuna is asking, if intelligence is everything, what is the point in engaging in fruitive action? And Krishna is clarifying that it is essential for the work to go on. However, the important element is that instead of receiving the fruits of the work for your own self, give them as an offering to me. Krishna further explains in the 9th chapter. He says, Yat karoshi yat shanashi yat jihoshi dadasya yat tapasyasi kontaya tat kurushva madarpanam. He says, whatever you do, whatever sacrifices you make, whatever charity you give, do it as an offering to me. And then what is the consequence? What happens because of that? In doing so, the work or the results of the work do not bind us. At this stage, there are, it's good to understand there are 3 types of activities that all living beings engage in. One is called sukarma. Sukarma means good activities. Then the other is vikarma. Vikarma means bad activities. And the third is akarma. So quickly, the difference is, I'm sure most of you understand, but just as a refresher, the argument sometimes is by people that what is the harm in just being a good living being, helping everyone and doing some charity and doing some philanthropy activities? A lot of people bring up that argument and they say, what is the necessity to make a show of engaging in some religious or spiritual activities? That's a commonly asked question. So the issue with, or the not so great thing about just performing good activity is that it simply prepares you for a more comfortable life, either here or in the next birth. But it continues to bind you by the results of your action. So sukarma, no matter how much it is done, is still binding of the reaction that you get. These are good reactions, obviously. Then there's no need to really understand what vikarma is. Bad activity, it'll bring upon a negative reaction. So until our bank balance of good and bad credit continue to exist, we are forced to take birth and live either in this life form or in another. Scriptures tell us that there are very, very wonderfully arranged planetary systems outside, below and above the earth that we live in, and above us, where the facilities are even more amazing. There is more and more comfort. But you can go right up to the topmost planet of Lord Brahma, and you'll still be part of the material world, which means you'll still have to come down at some point. Krishna says, Brahma bhuvana loka. Even if one rises in material opulence or good credit, so much so that he reaches the planet of Lord Brahma, he will still not be immortal and not be liberated. He will still have the possibility of falling down again into the lower planets. Punaravartin Arjuna, Krishna is saying, confirming. So the scriptures are telling, Krishna is telling directly that there is really no use of over endeavoring to increase our material arrangement, material facility, because no matter how far you go, not just in England or America or India, but even in the higher planetary systems where the facilities are much better, you still are bound by the results of your action, which means you will continue to come down, go up, come down, go up. And because you will continue to take birth, you will still go through the threefold misery and the four issues, the real big issues of birth, disease, old age, and death. So Krishna is giving a solution as to how to get out of that. And that's the understanding of the third element of karma. Akarma means conducting activities which do not give us any results or any action. I mean, it will have good results, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But any activity done as an offering to the Lord is not binding for us materially. It, in fact, on the other hand, connects us spiritually with the Lord. So, does anybody have access to the calendar? We just wanted to quickly read through the month of April. It says in April, just like most months of the year, we observe fasting days in conjunction with special festivals. What we eat, how much, and when all contribute to our sense of well-being and spiritual vitality. Offered food called prasadam is considered to be the mercy of the Lord. So again, another very good reason of why we should partake in this exchange of making an offering to the Lord. It is sanctified food, and prasadam means the mercy of the Lord. It nourishes the body and transforms the consciousness. Now, this next bit is very, very important and very relevant for the times we're living in at the moment. Everybody we know is suffering from this ongoing pandemic, and everyone's running around for the vaccination. But here it says, just as a vaccine can protect us against an epidemic, eating prasadam protects us from the influence of the material world. It also vanquishes past sinful reaction and immunizes us from future material contamination. By preparing pure natural vegetarian food and then offering it to God in a spirit of devotion, we turn a daily chore into a spiritual experience. This is enlightened eating. How beautiful, how wonderful the devotees have put this together. And if you read that further, it says in the end, Prabhupada gave us this method, and he boldly declared that we could eat our way back to Krishna. How simple, how beautiful, how easy to implement. So of the four things we do, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, it all starts with eating. These are four needs of my body. My physical self needs all these, but it all starts with eating. And Prabhupada and the Acharyas are giving us the instruction to how to spiritualize this activity. And instead of binding ourselves with the reaction, we, by doing so, connect ourselves and spiritualize the whole act of feeding our bodies and nourishing. That is the way of having Krishna prasadam, and there is obviously scriptures available to give you instructions on how best to do it, what kind of setup you can have, and how it is very easy to perform. In this regard, there's a little story that I'd like to share of a very, very well-known devotee of Lord Ram. She was known as Shabari. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with the stories, but it's good to just go through it again and ensure that we still remember the learnings from the past times. So Shabri was a tribal woman. She was born in a tribal family, and they had a custom that whenever it was a big event, they would kill animals and offer as a special item. So somehow or the other, quite likely because of her previous life's association, she did not like the idea of causing pain and grief to other living beings for her celebration and enjoyment. So she tried to stop that, but nobody listened. So she ran away from her house and she left her family and started looking for some place of shelter. And eventually a great saint, Matang Muni, he gave her shelter, and then she started living in the ashram. And she would just do some basic services like cleaning, tidying, and she would take instructions from Matang Muni and just treat Matang Muni as the most honorable person, and totally devote herself to serving the spiritual master. And by doing so, she became more and more purified. So she's a great example of continuously making service offering for our own purification. Came a point where Matang Muni was about to leave his body. Shabri felt sad because she didn't have anybody else. So Matang Muni gave a boon. What do you want? And she obviously wanted to stay with the master, but having pleased the spiritual master fully, Matang Muni gave a blessing that please continue to serve the place in this way, and one day you will have darshan of the Lord himself. And she took the instruction of the spiritual master to heart, did not doubt at all, continued to serve the ashram and people around, and waited every day for the Lord to come. And we all know the story. She was so sincere in her efforts. She would every day gather a bunch of fruits, taste the berries, and separate the good from bad, and sit there day after day after day until she became very old. But she didn't give up on her practice. And again, we know the Lord came, Lord Ram, during his exile. He didn't take notice of all the exalted saints and rishis who were in the area. He went straight for Shabri. So Shabri is a great example of that spirit of devotion and sacrifice and acknowledgement of the Lord being the source of everything. A lot of times we meet people and they say, well, I've been chanting for so many months and I'm not seeing a change, or I'm not feeling it, or I'm not having a spiritual experience. How long have we been chanting? 1 year or few months, etc. Or how many rounds are you chanting? Well, I chant when I feel like in the morning. No, it can take a while sometimes. So Shubri is a great example of following the instructions of the spiritual master to the T and waiting for our time. And the understanding is that the Lord knows what's best for us. He knows when we are ready. So for those of us who have a spiritual master, we feel fortunate that we are in direct association with the Guru Parampara. And for those who are aspiring, yes, all best wishes, and hope that you all get connected to the disciplic succession to get the mercy and have the access direct. So Shubri, a great example of devotion and service and sacrifice. And that brings us to the other element of when we make sacrifice, what is the key essential element. And the essential element Krishna details in the 9th chapter. Again, it says, Patram Pushpam Palam Toim Yome Bhakta Pranishati. Tadaham Bhakta Prahatam. Tadaham Bhakta Prahatam. This is the key bit. Ashnami Prayatatmana. He says, you can offer me anything, anything, leaf, fruit, flower, water. Why leaf, fruit, flower, water? Because these are the 4 elements that anybody can access. You don't need to have extensive resources to get these 4 items: leaf, fruit, drop of water, or flower. Anybody, just go in the wild, pluck a few leaves. But the key element is with love and devotion. And you can imagine what happens when you have loving exchanges with your family members. Your relationship improves. You feel the bonding, and you gain each other's trust. And as a result, you have the assurance that you are there for each other. Now, if you follow the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita and develop something like that with the Lord himself, what else do you need? Nothing else. And then the 3-fold miseries, 4 main issues, they all just go by the wayside. When the Lord personally assures you that he's there. What's the last word? I will deliver you from all sinful reactions personally. He says, Mokshishyami ma shuchaha. Do not fear. The instructions are so direct, so simple, so easy to implement. So the message again is to not overly endeavor in simply improving our physical facilities of enjoyment, but take this human opportunity to revive our forgotten connection, and recognize that the Lord is the source of everything. And if we do not acknowledge that, then in essence, we are thieves. We've just got another 10-15 minutes. We'll just quickly focus on the actual verse. The main message of the verse we've already spoken about, so it's not like we've not covered it. But I felt it was essential to build a bit of a background before we dive into the actual verse itself. So we can have a volunteer, Shankar Prabhu, or are you able to read? Or if not, then Lalita Preeti Mataji, maybe you could read just the translation for us.
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, Shankar.
Shall I read, Prabhu? Shankar
I think
Prabhu is-
Shankar Prabhu is available.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Purport also, Prabhuji?
Yeah, just please go on.
Purport. The devotees of the Supreme Lord or the persons who are in Krishna consciousness are called Santas, and they are always in love with the Lord as it is described in the Brahma Samhita 5.38. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti. The Santas, being always in a compact of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the giver of all pleasures, or Mukunda, the giver of liberation, or Krishna, the all-attractive person, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Person. Therefore, such devotees always perform yagnas in different modes of devotional service, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, etc. And these performances of yagnas keep them always aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in the material world. Others who prepare food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves but also the eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy if he is both a thief and sinful? It is not possible. Therefore, in order for people to become happy in all respects, they must be taught to perform the easy process of Sankirtana Yajna in full Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, there can be no peace or happiness in the world. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much, Shankar Prabhu. This is amazing. The first sentence has the word santas, and I think it's got something to do with the Western world taking upon the name as Santa Claus. I think it essentially means santas. What do you think? Anyway, the point is that if we do not make sacrifice, or we do not partake in this exchange of acknowledging the source of all that we have at our disposal, we are not just thieves, but we are committing a sin. Number one, it disturbs the arrangement that the Lord has in nature. A great example is it's confirmed that in olden days, when we used to do fire sacrifice and use ghee as an offering to the rain gods, it would aid in conducting rains, etc. But now we've got so many industries set up, which is kind of causing disruption with that process. So the acknowledgement, number one, is essential for us to not be classed as thieves. It is basic etiquette. It is out of our cultural values that we should engage in this exchange of sharing and making these acknowledgements. I gave the example of how a non-believer is, whether he wants to believe or no, still obligated. Otherwise, you know what happens to people who evade taxes or do not make acknowledgements. They are classed as outlaws. And then for sinful people, for not making acknowledgements, there are consequences to face. And not just for the fear of it. Krishna is saying, if you do this, I will take away the results of your action, and you will then be able to come back to me. And only by doing so, only by using our increased ability as humans, we are making good use of this opportunity. Otherwise, if you don't do that, if you don't ask the right questions, if you don't engage in activities of loving exchange activities with the Lord, then we are non-different than animals. And a few of the points were, you don't need to have a very, very elaborate arrangement. There are so many other stories from the Shastras. There is a story of Sudama Vipra, how he just took a bag of chip rice to the Lord. And simply because of his sincerity, the Lord accepted. Rukmani Mata is saying, no, you give it to me. You will have a stomachache if you eat this. But the Lord is saying, no, I will partake because my friend, my devotee has brought it for me with love and devotion. Although the scriptures and the acharyas make it so simple for us, the understanding is that this love and devotion or bhakti doesn't come very easily to everyone, because once the Lord awards devotion to a living being, the understanding is that he gets bound by that devotee. So it's both easy and difficult to attain at the same time. Then there are examples of Krishna helping Draupadi in the time of exile that Pandavas were going through. So we all know the story that sun god gave Yudhishthira the Akshapatra so that they could take care of themselves and whatever guests they were receiving in that time of exile without much resources to their disposal. And then Durvasa Muni was sent by Duryodhan. I'm not going into the detail of the story, we all know. And then Krishna appears because Draupadi is calling out to him. And even though Draupadi eaten from the bowl for that day, Krishna still insists on seeing the bowl. And I remember our days of growing up when Ramayana and Mahabharata were like very, very big, and we would spend a lot of time and energy ensuring we don't miss. It was very different from today, where there is Star Wars and Marvel and whatnot that have replaced those amazing episodes that were shown on the TV. I remember Krishna singing in Hindi, Ek anna ka ye dana sukh dega mujhko manmana, means this one grain of rice, you just offer it to me. Let me have just one little bit, and I will derive maximum enjoyment out of that. So the message is that if we try to satisfy the senses of the Lord, that's when we truly get satisfied. Not until then. If we stay away from or continue to satisfy our own senses, we continue to get bound by the results of our action and keep going up and down in the lower and the higher planetary systems based on whatever our bank balance of good and bad credit is. So a very, very simple to implement formula. Great benefits, should be done out of courtesy, culture. Even if you're not religious, you should still do it. Acknowledgement is a must for good relationships, not just with your family members, but with the government as well. And therefore, you must acknowledge the forces of nature. And a lot of what we are facing nowadays is consequences of mistreating Mother Nature and not making the acknowledgement. It's just sad to observe today that we were just looking at some statistics of believers versus non-believers, and it's increasing. More and more people are recognizing themselves as not believing in any kind of God or any superior force, which is very sad. And the more this continues to happen, the more we'll have these reactions to suffer. So let's make some acknowledgement, be very, very gratuitous of this message of the Bhagavad Gita which we have, and share it with as many people as possible. I just want to close at just going back to Arjuna's example. Arjuna is understood to be a king. He was not a Brahmin or some kind of saint. He was just a regular individual with a family setting and a battle to fight, much like us, where we have to go through our daily issues. So you don't need any special qualifications to start this process of bhakti yoga. It starts with eating. Just begin to make those simple acknowledgements, and you're on your way. So Arjuna was in this predicament, fight or not. And Acharyas tell us that he was thinking about himself. What will happen after I fight? Who will I enjoy with? And what will happen to all the relatives? But Krishna's saying, dude, simply speaking, whether you fight or no, all these guys that you see are gone anyway. None of these warriors that are present here are going home. So the message is to Arjuna was, whether you want to fight or no, I have made arrangement for all the evil to be finished from the earth. Essentially, the take-home point is whether we have our contribution or no, the Lord has his own arrangement of finishing all evil and re-establishing the principles of religion. You know, he says, Paritrana sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam. It is for us to act intelligently and participate in this process and take some credit. He's saying whether you want or no, it's going to happen. Intelligent people will abide by his instruction and in the process take some credit for having contributed and supported the process of re-establishing religion. Just on by way of statistics, last year during the book marathon in December, across the world, there were 2 million copies of Gitas distributed. It was a goal for ISKCON as a whole, and all the centers together came forward and cracked the goal. 2 million copies of Gita. Now you ask yourself, if you distributed 1 copy of Gita, you dropped something into that ocean. If you didn't, it still happened. So the ball is in your court. Do you want to participate in the Lord's word? Because it's going to happen anyway. It is an amazing opportunity for us right here. Prabhupada has taken so much trouble at ISKCON Manchester. We are constantly endeavoring to bring these programs and get-togethers to you wherever you are. Please take advantage. There are limited opportunities at this point in time, but you can still continue to make an impact. Connect with Gauranga Trashpo, myself, or anybody you feel comfortable with as to how we can continue to reach out, continue to share and care. It's very difficult when you have a calamity at your hand to make sense of anything. For all the people who are going through loss of family members, it's just a very, very difficult time to make sense of why and when and what to be done, etc. So what I'm requesting is we take the time to pass on the message now so that they can make sense of these reversals when they do happen. We are so far away from so many of our friends and families here in England. India is suffering, a lot of other places are going through. It's just very, very essential that we do our bit in sharing and caring in a truly spiritual way. Yes, you can send your good wishes, exchange gifts, etc. But to truly make use of this opportunity that we've been given and demonstrate that we are intelligent beings, we need to not just do karma, but do karma yoga. That's the title of the chapter. Yoga means connecting and connecting with the Lord. So not just karma, which is binding, karma yoga, which is relieving or connecting with the Supreme. On that note, I'd like to close. I've gone over by 5 minutes. Gauranga Trashpo, over to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mother Kumar Prabhu. Thank you for that. We'll open the floor for any questions or any comments by any devotees. Niru Mataji, you have any questions or comments? Usually these kind of lectures, you always ask something.
She's mute still.
You're still muted, Mataji.
I'm just taking it in what he said.
Okay.
About.
So you're just nodding your head. You're agreeing with him.
Yeah, well, having gratitude, because some people don't have gratitude at all. Some people are.
Right. Good.
So it's nice to know that. Anyway, it's something that I can think about.
Good.
Very easily, Mataji.
Yeah, because some people don't have gratitude at all. They think it's their given right to be, so what, they've done it.
For granted, yeah.
Because you do see it in your life. When you're as old as me, you do see it. All your life, you see some people are givers and some people are takers.
Yep. And Prabhupada's being very direct. He's not mincing words, saying people who don't acknowledge are thieves and sinners, and the consequences are to come, no matter.
No matter, yeah.
Yes.
So you know, it's sometimes you have to to act upon it is you mustn't lose your temper and think, oh, you have to sort of I just ignore them then after. Give them about 3 chances. And if they carry on, put them on the top shelf or put them on the back boiler. And that's it. It's the best. It just helps.
Yeah, Malaji, you reminded me of a very important point for us to be able to not just begin, but continue with our practices. It is very, very essential that we continue to have association of devotees.
Yeah,
If we
that's
lose touch,
very true. Yeah.
Lose touch, we will lose out.
Yeah.
The amount of time we've spent here and have managed to stay on track is purely by the guidance, constant inspiration of senior devotees at ISKCON Manchester. I made acknowledgements at the start. Radhaman Prabhu has just joined. I remember when my first visa was about to expire, and I told him, Prabhuji, I might have to go. And Radhaman Prabhu said, well, I would like you to stay. And I think the Lord must have heard, because he's a better devotee than I am. And then somehow things worked, and we are carrying on. So yes, please don't lose touch with devotees, pandemic or no. Just
we have lost so much association. It's just unbelievable everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you try sometimes, like say I try on a Wednesday I have my grandchildren, so by the time I finish cooking and feeding them and they've been picked up, it's 9 o'clock. But I do try. What do? You do your best.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And any other comments or any other questions by any of the members? Okay, so I got a couple of things that I wanted to say. Firstly, like our sincere prayers to everyone who have been suffering with this COVID. It is affecting everyone in the world, especially in India now. I hear so many things. Just now, before the class, I visited a family who had who have lost their family member, and they told me that another person, just aged 37. Had passed away due to COVID, and like this every day I'm hearing so much news of this. So we sincerely pray for all those across the world, and especially in India, for those who are suffering. So a couple of take-home messages from the class. Firstly, I also would like to thank all the devotees for being with us. I know it is we are missing that physical association. The physical association will always have a different impact, different effect. Currently, like due to pandemic, we are not able to have that physical association. But I request, and I'm very grateful for all the devotees for coming together to have these programs and to discuss and hear about it. It is a simple process, but the simple process, because it is so simple, if we try to lose it, we will lose the track. There is no doubt about it. Or rather, when we follow, we definitely gain strength.
Yes.
When we come here, we also motivate others. That is a very important thing. We will have to just remember, when we come together, we will also motivate others. So I humbly request all the devotees, please kindly take some extra effort to join in. I know that we are all busy, but I request kindly take part When we take part, others get motivated. And the points from the class, first one is about being grateful, having that gratitude. So we all have been given this gift of Krishna consciousness. Mother Kumar Prabhu also mentioned, so many people have worked hard. As a result of that, we got this Krishna consciousness. So we should be grateful. We should also reciprocate with them. We should also reciprocate with Prabhupada. Okay, I've got this gift. Just apply the same principle, the same shloka message to Prabhupada. We're being given this Krishna consciousness. How am I reciprocating? Am I grateful? Yes, let's contemplate. Let's think about that. If not, how can I be grateful? How can I be, how can I respond and reciprocate for that? That's the thing that was going through my mind when Mother Kumar Prabhu was mentioning about acknowledgements and gratitude. And also, second point I just picked up from the purport while Shankar Prabhu was reading, that Prabhupada mentions the Yagnas. Yes, Yagna. So Shravanam is also Yagna, hearing is also Yagna. Prabhupada mentions different types of Yagnas. Kirtanam is also Yagna. Remembrance is also Yagna. So just by coming and discussing this is a kind of Yagna. No doubt about it. So which will be beneficial for all of us. Those are the couple of take-home messages. Like I took it, and let me see a couple of people. Okay. Announcements-wise, this Saturday we have a special program starting from 5. His Grace Shubha Vilas Prabhu had kindly agreed to do a 2-part Ramayana session. The first one will be this Saturday, and then the next one will be on the Sunday, 16th May. So please kindly, make a note of that, and also pass on this message to everyone. He's an excellent speaker. He's an authority on Ramayana. He had written a number of books on Ramayana, and some or other we are able to grab hold of him for ISKCON Manchester. Unfortunately, we thought we would do that in the month of April, but he was so busy and that was not possible. Apart from that, Fridays, we've been thinking of dedicating one particular speaker for 1 month, and we will continue to do Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we will let you know on that. So those are the couple of quick messages. Any news, any update from book table, Madhav Kumar Prabhu, you want to give?
No, bro, I share that sometimes people think that spirituality is very difficult and it needs a lot of discipline. But on the contrary, it's filled with joy and a lot of pleasure. The chanting of the name Hare and Krishna and Ram. Rama means reservoir of pleasure. So if we chant the names of Lord Ram, we are bound to get happiness. So, it's a general misconception that spirituality or discipline in religion means devoiding our lives of enjoyment. That's not the case. We just go at a different level altogether. So yeah, take home for me as well all the time. Yeah, please, like I said, I really request, take the time now to push at least one copy of Gita in the hands of your friends and family when they can take the time to read. When they get to the point where they are going on, it's very difficult to preach. Please, let's act as well-wishers, true well-wishers, and pass on the message of Krishna to our friends and families now. Take a commitment, distribute 4, 5, 1 a month, 2 a month, whatever. Leave a drop in the pond, participate in the Sankirtan Yagya. And I'll just close on saying that, and we mentioned this before, that it's not like Krishna is not here and Mahaprabhu came 550 years ago. Wherever there is chanting of the holy name going on, wherever there is books, Sankirtan going on. The pastimes of the Lord are continuing to happen. It is for us, whether we want to participate or not. It is continuing.
Yeah, about the Ramayan books, you wanted to make announcements on that?
Yes. Yeah, Shubhavilas Prabhu, what he's done is he's translated the teachings of Ramayana into very, very practical and easy to understand messages. A series of 16 books for all age groups. The set is available. We've made it available just very, very quickly. Dhruv's just handed me these 5 books. These are practical, easy to understand and apply guidebooks from teachings from Ramayana. Stand strong, adopt patience, and then this one's conquer change, roar with courage, and radiate confidence. These are for all age groups. I'm reading a book every day with Dhruv. We are picking up different words, spellings, etc., and taking home messages from the scriptures directly. There are 11 other books, very amazing set of 16 books for all age groups. For children, there is story and illustration and everything. So if you have kids in the family, or if you have grown-ups, or if you're elderly, you have any people in the house, you must try and get a set. That's all cool. 5 sets available, 5 are gone. So please, first come, first serve.
Okay. Yes, yes. I've taken a set first of all, so I strongly recommend that you will get a lot out of it, a lot out of that.
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, if you don't want to keep the whole thing, you can take the full set because it's a bundle and split it up and give it as gifts to people. It's just great value.
Okay, so thank you, Madhukuma Prabhu. Thank you, all the devotees, for your kind association. Hare Krishna, and we shall see you on Friday. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna.